Welcome back, listeners. I'm Cody Starkin, and for this month's episode of Standing Post, we bring you a uniformed division officer from the Secret Service's Emergency Response Team to discuss the team's support to the White House and designated protectees. Please welcome to Standing Post, Sergeant Technician Darrione Nall. So welcome, Sergeant Technician Darrione Nall. I appreciate you coming on the show and talking to us a little bit about what you do for the Uniform Division Special Ops Emergency Response Team. But before we get into that, do you mind introducing yourself to the listeners?
Absolutely. So, like you said, Darrione Nall, born and raised in Youngstown, Ohio. I lived there till I was probably in like 7th grade. My mom's military, so I'm a military brat, as they call us. I moved to Germany for a couple of years with my mom. Then we got stationed in upstate New York, where I spent most of my time, like in high school and everything, graduated from there. Then I went to Buffalo, New York for college, spent a couple years out of college there. And for the past almost 18 years, I've been a resident of Maryland and employed with the Secret Service.
In Germany, were you stationed?
Darmstadt.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom was there for, I think, about 8 years, and I lived there for about 3 years with her. So that was a very interesting experience. Definitely hated to leave. It was one of the moments that I remember crying like a little baby when she was like, "Hey, you're going back to the States." And it was like, the States? Nah, I don't want to go back to the States. But, you know, all in all, it was a great experience. I never regret it. Military life, watching my mom go through that is part of the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
Okay.
This is the way I chose to serve my country. So.
And what did you do in college?
College, I was a major in criminal justice, political science. But I also played football and ran track there. And, you know, college life, man. You know, partying here and there, you know, a little bit. Grades drop, academic probation, all that good stuff. And you come back up and you graduate. You know, maturity kicks in after about 2 years in college. So college was fun. Met some of my lifelong friends, you know, like college, I still keep in touch with some guys that are their family, you know. They're not just friends, they're family. They're my brothers. I grew up with them. One of them in particular is probably the tool that God used, I say, to even sit me in this chair next to you. He was the one who pushed me to do more. And actually, you know, I always say, it's not necessarily like what you major in and stuff. It's being in the right place at the right time or who you know. And I actually hit both of those with a friend of mine from college who led me to the Secret Service.
Yeah, I'm coming to find out a lot that if you're in the area, that, you know, networking partnerships are a big thing.
Absolutely.
And so as you're going through college, I mean, again, I always bring this up because it's always fascinating to me about how people find out about the Secret Service and how they get not enrolled, but they or apply to it. And
Hollywood, man.
Oh, okay.
Watch a lot of movies, and I'm like, man, that looks interesting. So I graduated college, and when I graduated, I didn't know what I was going to do. And I think that's typical of a lot of people that graduate. Certain degrees, I feel like once you graduate your undergrad, you just know where you're going next. Well, for me, I didn't know. So I wanted to always do something exciting. I'm an energy guy. You know, I love sports. I love team atmosphere. So I watched a lot of movies, and Secret Service always seemed intriguing, but I never knew how to go about it. And like I told you, a buddy of mine in college had a cookout, and I went to his house, and he stopped me literally right at the door and was like, "What are you gonna do?" And I'm looking at him like, "I'm going to take this cake in the house and I'm going to go have a good time with everybody." "What you mean?" He was like, "Nah, what are you going to do with your life?" And I was like, so he's like a big brother figure. So I just threw it out there. I was like, man, I've been looking at this Secret Service thing. Maybe I'll try that. And ironically, this was a Saturday. He worked for a congressman in Buffalo, New York. That Monday, that congressman actually had a meeting with the SAC of the Buffalo field office. So he gave his congressman my name, dropped it to the SAC. Tuesday, I got a call from the SAC, and 18 years later, man, here I am. So that's how it happened.
I am curious about the movie. Which one got you hooked?
Oh, it was, I can't remember the name of it. It was the one with Harrison Ford where he was the president. I always remember that line. It was like, "Get off my plane," and keep doing that. It was just something about that. I was just like real excited about it, about, you know, just being a part of something that makes a difference. You know, I mean, there's millions of jobs out there, so I'm not taking a slight at any of them. But for some reason, to me, I was like, oh, if I'm gonna do something to serve my country, I want to kind of go as high as I feel I can go,
Oh, yeah,
which is,
definitely.
doesn't get much higher than the president.
I know we're here to talk about the emergency response team,
Yes.
but can you kind of walk us through on how you entered into the division or the group, as far as from you going in through that application process, FLETC, the basic course, like if you can walk us through that
Yeah,
process.
so I came on the job in 2002. So the application process was way more extensive then. It was no computer, like everything was written out, mailed back, stuff like that. So it took me a while to get it done. But it did not take me long to get hired. And, I got the call a month after 9/11. So when 9/11 hit, I was actually laid off from a job, and I was thinking like, man, there's no way I'm getting hired now. They way too busy. But it was the exact opposite. Like the service just imploded with employment, man. Everybody was putting in for it then. So I actually got the call like 1 month after 9/11. So 2002, I moved down here from Buffalo, New York. Went down to Flexi as we do. That was a great time, experiencing that, just meeting new people, going through things law enforcement wise. I never done anything with law enforcement, never like tactics, guns, any of that. So finished that up, moved back up here, finished up the service portion, and 18 months on was when I could put in for ERT. And like I said before, I'm a team-oriented mindset guy, so I've always wanted to be on ERT from the moment I saw them through my basic training. And in 2003, as soon as I hit my 18 months, I put in, and I haven't looked back, man. I've been in and out of ERT. I've been an instructor. I'm on my second K9 dog right now. I've been downtown for quite a while, but I still get pulled out to offer my experience and motivational skills, as they say.
Well, you sound like the perfect person on the show to talk about it.
Yeah, man. I just always tell people, I say, God bless me with a unique way to motivate people. Probably things we're not going to talk about on here, but I'm just saying it's interesting.
Well, one thing that I did want to talk about, because having you on, we want to educate those that may want to go into ERT.
Right.
So can you talk about the basic requirements? After the 18 months, you talked already about a server, like a limited or a service requirement within the uniform division before you can apply. What else do you need?
So that was when I came on. Right now, you can basically graduate your regular basic school, and if there is an ERT opening, you're authorized to put in. So we don't have a waiting period anymore. You do have to score 15 out of 16 points on the Secret Service PT test. And that's literally just to put your foot in the door. That's like the application process. Once you get in there, we'll put you through our shooting assessment. We'll put you through the PT test again, and then a couple of other things that we do to make sure that people are going to be accepted into this program. Once you get accepted, it's an 8-week school, and it's very, very rigorous. It's I think there's a misconception though that people always feel like ERT is a PT school because we walk around with
What do you mean PT?
Well, people always, if somebody was asking me, they'd be like, "Hey, what do I need to do to get ready for ERT? Like, I'm running, I'm lifting, I'm this and that." And I'm like, I can look at people. I've been doing it long enough where I can size a guy or a woman up and be like, "I think you're in enough shape to do it, like physically." But what people fail to realize is it's a mental school. The working out and being in shape helps you. So when we stress your body, your mind stays moving slow. Like how me and you are talking right now. This is, if something was to happen, I want my mind to be able to think about, the answers to those questions, just like I'm doing for you right now, instead of breathing heavy and, eyes start to shut, things start to close in. And that's how we bounce people out of our schools then. It's more of a mental game. It's not, it really has little to do with that physical. We've never kicked anybody out of an ERT school because they could not PT. It's never happened, not once.
Do you have like a selection process where you go through to weed out those individuals if they have, or is it just a mental assessment?
Well, no, there are points through the school where it's just pass fail. Certain tests that we put you through, you either pass it or you don't. It's simply up to you. But the rest of the school is just you displaying to us that you understand the tactics that we're giving you. You know how to put out the right information, basically, to get in. But once you're in, there are numerous different tactics that we go through that we try to see if an individual will be able to be successful in providing the right answers that we give you in points through the school when we're stressing you through scenarios. So it is pass-fail scenarios that we give you like 2 weeks in, maybe 4 weeks in, but the rest of the school is really just on the instructors looking at individuals and saying either they can get it done or they can't. I mean, if you become a safety violations and just not interpreting things fast enough is what gets you bounced out. Safety is huge. I mean, everybody knows when you're in the Secret Service, it is huge on safety. So that's pretty much what we get a lot of people on is things that they do unsafe. They may not be able to think about a scenario and what to do while manipulating their weapon at the same time. And they become unsafe with their teammates. They become unsafe with the public. And it's not like it's malicious that they mean to do it. It's just that maybe their minds aren't thinking fast enough. It's only an 8-week course. And the way I always describe it to people, it's like getting on a roller coaster. And when you get on a roller coaster, you're standing in a line, that's your PT test to get in. All right, once you get past the line and you sit in your seat, well, you pass your PT test, now you're accepted. Everybody knows the roller coaster starts to go up real slow. And that going up slow is like week 1 and week 2. But once it drops, it never goes back up to where it began until it goes all the way around. And that's ERT school. Once we drop, we can't slow down. There's no room, there's no time to slow down. Manpower has always been a huge thing for the service, especially for ERT. So we have to get these classes out. I don't want to say as fast as we can, but we just need to make sure we're getting classes through as proficient as we can. So there's no slowing down, and that's where I think candidates probably can't keep up with it. Maybe a little bit more time. We've got plenty of candidates that are excellent operators on our team that have gone through multiple schools. And sometimes that's just what it takes. But there's no harm, no foul in that. As long as you come back through, you usually make a much better operator for not just yourself, but a teammate for the individuals that are in the class with you, because you seem to have a little bit better understanding of how things go. So.
Can you describe who you're looking for? And, if I'm sitting there waiting to apply, how do I know to say, yes, I want to do this?
Well, for me, personally, I'm looking for somebody that's kind of a like-minded individual, team-oriented, unselfish, dedicated to the job. These are the things that, in my opinion, it takes to be not just ERT, but Secret Service as a whole. I mean, the job we have is so important that I don't want a guy that's here just to collect a check or a girl that's here to just collect a check. If you want to be a part of this unit, you, need to embrace the brotherhood that we have, because ERT is just that. We are a family, and we operate basically being a brotherhood, being a family. You're going to look to your left and your right, and you're going to want to do more for that person because you're not just here to collect a check. So we are a tight-knit group, and we put our pride on that too. So that's the type of individual I'm looking for. Unselfish, family-oriented, brotherhood, male, female, it doesn't matter. We've had females on the team. We would love to have more females on the team. We're just looking for candidates that want to come through, work hard, and get the job done. Because when it hits the fan, we want to make sure we can look to the left and the right and not worry. And I can't honestly say that everybody can say that. They can't look to their left and their right and understand that that person there is not just here to collect a check. I can say that without a shadow of a doubt about ERT. And every member on it, if I look to my left or my right or behind me, they're there for business.
After the training, is there certain sections that you can move into? Is there something that you're able to choose specifically, or is it needs of ERT?
Mine is promotion. We have a K-9 unit, and we have our SOT staff. Our SOT staff is not technically, on paper, it's not technically ERT. They're considered the training staff, but they are ERT. Once ERT, always ERT. That's one of the things we say. It doesn't matter if you go agent, you can go to a different agency. Once you're part of this brotherhood, you're always a part of it. So the trainers that we do have, they still work operationally downtown. Okay. So the avenues that you can go, it's not a lot. Like I said, you could become a K-9 handler, but the different aspects of training that you can receive just being on this team. I mean, people look at us as a building defense, the White House. Well, it's the White House. It needs to be manned 24/7, 365. 366 on leap year. You know what I'm saying? I always tell my wife there's no such thing as a holiday. It's just holiday pay. So that's what we do. It's always going to be there. It's always going to have to be manned. But there are different things that we do. People don't understand that you could put us in a vehicle and we can defend ourselves in that on any street. You can put us in the urban tactics, we can defend ourselves there. You can put us in wood lines, we can defend ourselves there. It's so many different things that we do, but people just see us as a building defense. But our training it's literally like a tier 1 tactical school when it comes to law enforcement. I mean, the only places we don't train are air and water.
Okay.
And even in water, our canines have to apprehend a guy in water, bite, and get called off of that bite in the water and come back to us. So there's not very many places that we're not capable of using our skill set. It's just that what people see is building defense. And that is probably I wouldn't even say that's our bread and butter. If you throw somebody out in a wood line and you need us to hunt them down, that's ERT's bread and butter.
Okay. I'm sorry to change the topics here because you brought up the canines. Is that something, does every ERT person, are they assigned a canine?
No.
Okay.
Nah, it's one of those things where it's like you either want it or you don't.
Okay.
Because the ERT basic school in itself is grueling.
Okay.
I'd like to say the canine school might be just a little bit more grueling.
Okay.
It's for the simple fact that you learn to appreciate what a dog can do through that program. And it's a 10-week program.
Okay.
We currently have 4 operators right now going through the school. And it's tough. It's tough. But what you get out of that lifelong partner you get out of a canine school, the experiences that you go through with a dog, I mean, the thing that is unique about that is it doesn't matter how good you are, and it doesn't matter how good the dog is. If you both don't come together as a unit, and you don't become a canine handler. I could be the best operator ERT has to offer, but if the dog is no good, then I'm not going to be a canine handler.
Right.
The dog could be a show dog, top of the line, but if me as an operator, if I can't pick up the things that the instructors put out, then I'm not going to be a canine handler. So it's like the perfect harmony has to happen. And it's so funny, man. Like your dog's literally, either you take on the attitude of your dog or the dog. But I tell you, man, this is my second dog, and I swear they're both just like me. Maybe I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one to think that. I know you had EDT Jay Castro on here a while ago. I'm pretty sure he feels the same way. But it's your dog becomes it's like you become one, and it's kind of weird how you pick up on certain things. They pick up on your body language, voice inflections, everything. It's an amazing program.
And what's your partner's name?
Junior.
Okay.
But I do have to give a shout out to my man Armor. That's my first dog. Got to. That's my buddy. Me and him started all this. So.
And so how long, so going back to like the duties and responsibilities of the ERT, because you talked about before if there's somebody in the wood line and, you have to move out and take care of, neutralize the target. Can you briefly explain, just in general, about some other responsibilities you have?
Some other responsibilities?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, we do, right now we travel with POTUS to his Mar-a-Lago Golf Resort. We travel to Bedminster. We do all the national security special events, the UN, the RNC, the DNC. Whether it's overseas, whether it's, domestic, those are the things we get called out for. I mean, we're not a part of POTUS like primary package where if he goes to just California, we're going to go. There's a lot of things that could happen out there as far as the scenery where we might be requested. And, things here or there might get us there or not. But all the NSSE events, every golf course he goes to, we do all of that. We're a middle perimeter tag team for all of those places. So we don't just sit at the White House, which I know a lot of people think. We really don't. I mean, even outside of that, just the training that we do, like when we're not, because we're not part of the permanent package with him, that gives us the opportunity to be able to train. And we train everywhere. People don't know unless you're in there. Like, I mean, all over the East Coast, West Coast, North, South, we're everywhere when it comes to either K9 training or just regular operator training, whether it's tactics or whether it's just shooting schools, or whether it's just like canine medics.
Okay.
We do a lot.
So basically, if you're not on mission, you're training.
If we're not on mission, we're training.
Is there something where if you're on duty, like you're a quick response force, to respond to any situation when you're on duty?
Well, we can be.
Okay.
You know, our tactics allow us to be, but as far as just every day on paper, no.
Okay.
We can kind of be considered a QRF for just the White House.
Okay.
We do the VPR's house as well, but if called on, then yes, we've sat behind, you know, plenty of closed doors waiting to be that QRF for somebody in plenty of different venues. But it's just the White House is so important that that's just where everybody sees us. But behind those closed doors, yeah, we've been called to do that before. Never actually had to do it. You know, we've never been where things have happened and we had to be like. But as far as our regular duties, like Jackson Hole, when we were out there with the VP, there were 4 guys who walked up on his house that, you know, we intercepted and things like that. We intercepted people down at Bush's Ranch in Texas while he was on his bike ride. A couple guys out there in the woodlines with a gun thinking they were hunting. We intercepted them. It's things like this that I wouldn't call it QRF. It's just us doing our job. You know, we'll sweep ahead. You know, we're like the eyes on the ground for our counter snipers when we're out there. You know, snipers see things and they'll send us out, and we kind of pick up the dirt from there.
Okay, fair enough. And so, as a sergeant technician in the ERT, what are those duties and responsibilities?
On ERT, it's unique because sergeants do everything that officer techs do. Okay. Honestly, the only thing that changed by me becoming a sergeant is that now I'm an evaluator for officers. And there's a couple different things that, you know, the unit needs. That, you know, we need sergeants in charge of vehicles, sergeants in time cards, things like that. That's, you know, paperwork type stuff. But as far as the job itself, nothing really changes because the job for a sergeant on ERT is the same as the job. When we're on the grounds, man. It's like rank is only rank when it needs to be rank. Because when problems present themselves, if we're at the White House and a problem presents itself and I'm the sergeant, that doesn't mean that all the officer techs move forward and do the job and I'm kind of the liaison between. No, it's where the problem hits, who's there, and you're in it. So I might be the sergeant on duty, and if the problem exists right in front of me, there's no running back to allow somebody else to take my point because I'm supposed to be the sergeant. You're in it, man. So the duties of a sergeant, administrative duties, yes, that changes. The actual job doesn't change a bit. Once you're operational, and whatever your rank is, you're expected to operate proficiently like the day one guy or the 20-year vet guy.
And if I decide to go into ERT, is that something that's for life? Is that something that you only get so many years in it, or do you have to basically apply to something else to move out?
No, right now there's no time limit. As long as you uphold the standards, as long as you keep passing your PT, passing your shooting, keeping your scores up, going out to training, because we train every month. Every month, every guy goes out and does cycle training. And as long as you're proficient in that, you can ride ERT out. I mean, like I said, 2003, man, I was blessed to be on this team. It's going into 2020, I'm still wearing the gear. You know, so it's my body is starting to tell me though, like, hey man, you might want to take this gear off. it's getting a little heavy. So
if I'm visiting the White House and I come up to the gate, I see a lot of the UD officers that are out protecting the perimeter and everything like that.
Right.
With your job in the ERT, are you a group that I'd see out there on the grounds? Is that, when would I see you in action?
In action? Well, that's different.
Okay.
In action, you'll see us if somebody comes over that fence.
Okay.
Definitely. But just like an everyday person walking through, you'll see us. We're out, we're about. We try to stay visible, but for the most part, we are in strategic places around the grounds, the vehicles. If you know the vehicle, then you know we're in it. But you definitely see us. We don't hide from the public. We're authorized to get out. People see us, like I was saying earlier, pictures where you can't tell people not to take a picture of you.
Mhm.
I mean, you can ask them not to, but they do. I've seen myself on social media sites and everything. So it's we're definitely visible, but we try what we try to do is just stay in these strategic spots that we are in, so that when something does happen, we can provide that coordinated tactical, assault back on anything that comes over that fence. But we're out and about. People see us all the time. We get the questions all the time. We get people asking for pictures all the time, and you take the dogs out. The dogs, 8 to 12 hours a day we working.
Mm-hmm.
Dogs got to get out. We got to get out. So we're definitely not hidden. I'll say that.
Okay.
If you know what you're looking at, then you know it's us for
Okay.
sure, 100%. ERT is never hidden.
Okay.
We're not. Even when we do these national security events, we're never hidden. Everything is about being in a strategic spot to put a assault back on something that comes. And also, if our goal is to be inside, or our mission is to go inside of a building, we got teams set up everywhere we need to be to where we can provide this tactical response to keep things out. And if it gets in, we can fall back and we can dump in, and we'll clear the rooms and buildings as needed on the inside. So it's all about the advance when people go out looking at sites and figuring out this is the best place for ERT to be. And that's what we do. So, but it's never put ERT here and we don't want anybody to see you guys. I mean, I think it might be the exact opposite. For us, we kind of like to try to stay out of sight a little bit, but it's just impossible to do it. But for the job, I think they really like us to be out because it is a show of force. I mean, when you look at the average police officer and what they wear, and then you look at us and what we wear, people do get intimidated just by looking at it. And I think that's what the service likes. Somebody who's just going to be like, nah, I'm not going to come over on this side because they got this whole team here with guns and dogs. So yeah, it's definitely a show of force that I think they like us to be visual. But
with all those years under your belt, do you have any stories you'd like to share as far as something that you might be able to share with listeners?
Stories? Probably none that
Okay.
I wouldn't catch a beat down. Nah. I would say being ERT, if I had to share a story, it wouldn't be anything maybe as exciting as, hey man, I remember when this happened. But like demos and things like that we do. The people I've been in front of to do demos as ERT for the President of the United States, Vice President of the United States. I'm a huge sports enthusiast. I mean, I've done demos for, football teams, basketball teams, Hall of Famers. It's, to me, that's like the jewel of being ERT. That is what I go home with. And I'm like, man, today I met, I remember when I met Thurman Thomas. I'm not even a Bills fan, but I'm a huge Thurman Thomas fan. I remember they were like, you got to do a demo today. And I was like, what was this demo for? And it was like, this guy and his son. It was Thurman Thomas and his son. I'm like, this guy's a Hall of Fame football player. Like, I get to do a demo for him? This is great. So things like that. I met a lot of people that I idolize as far as Hollywood with ERT. And that's my take. But there are a lot of other people that would probably give you some different stories. But for me, that's what I like, the perks that come with ERT that people really don't see. But it means a lot to me that, like, these people look at me and they're like, man, this is great. You do this. Thank you for this. And I'm just doing my job. So, I feel like I take it for granted sometimes.
Well, with all the, the psychological training that you take through the ERT, do you still get starstruck when you meet these individuals?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's crazy because they starstruck when they see me, we're at the White House and people come through on tours and I get starstruck and then they looking at me. And so we're just kind of, it's like a stare off. We're like, who's going to say something first? Because, when you walk around, you look like Call of Duty or, that's what people tend to stare and, Well,
I was going to say, I'm sure that your partner kind of breaks the ice a little bit, I would assume.
Oh, yeah. They love the dogs, man. The dogs are everything. Like, I was a cool guy until I got a dog. Now it's the dog. It's like nobody cares about me anymore. But yeah, everybody's interested in the dogs. But if you ever get the opportunity, especially if you haven't, come out to Beltsville, see a demo with the dog. It's amazing. I think people take dogs and don't give them enough credit. They're so smart, and the things that we've been able to accomplish with our dogs is pretty amazing. Pretty amazing.
Well, we had a former agent, Catherine Childers, come out, I believe, and I think you were the
Yep.
demonstrator for
Yep.
that group that was there. So yeah, no, it's always interesting to see what you guys do out there and what you have to get done, and seeing you guys actually go through the demonstration of what you have to perform.
She was the first female agent, correct?
One of the first five.
Yeah, I remember doing that demo for her and speaking to her. So things like that, that for me, being in Secret Service, being a minority myself, that's huge to be able to meet somebody like that. So I didn't even know when I was doing the demo, because we do a lot of demos, but it was after we did the demo that they told me who she was. I was like, oh, I need to talk to her. So, it was cool. Right? She came up, she talked to me. I even took a picture with her, so that was pretty cool.
So moving on with the ERT, are you able to kind of talk about the history of the organization, kind of when it stood up and the purpose?
I believe it was around 85. About 85 when we had that plane hit on the South grounds. Like, back then, ERT was kind of like it wasn't really a preferred position. People were kind of, as we say in the ERT world, just giving a baseball cap and saying, hey, you're ERT today. And that was kind of where it went. And then it was like late 80s. We started getting a little bit more formalized training, but not too much. And it wasn't until like early 90s to mid 90s where Treasury Department finally was like, hey, it was after like the Durant shooting where things really picked up and we really started seeing more of what ERT is now. It started out literally just a 2-week school. And if I'm not mistaken, that was just a lot of White House intruder type stuff. By the late 90s to the mid 2000s, we moved to 6 weeks and now 8-week school. And like I said earlier, it's literally like tier 1 tactical for law enforcement. I mean, we've added so many different, training points to it. Like I said, vehicles, cities, wood lines, interior tactics. There's literally nowhere that you can put us that we wouldn't be comfortable.
Have you worked with any other federal law enforcement agencies, like kind of like
all of them, man? Okay. I mean, some that I can't even speak on.
Okay.
Some that do things that allow us to sit here and have this conversation without really being worried. Yeah, we work with a lot of heroes. Let me just say that. Like, and I mean, from California to Arizona to Vegas, Virginia, North Carolina. I mean, everywhere you can think that there is a federal agency or a military group that does tactics, we've worked with them. They've left an impression or an imprint on what we do. So I like to say that the things that ERT do in our schools and our tactics, it's pretty much solidified that it works.
Okay.
And when it doesn't work, we have the right people in the right place to allow us to train with them to say, hey, this doesn't work anymore. This is what's going on. This is what's done different. So you need to change that. And that right there goes a long way, because being ERT is tough. Let me say it, being Secret Service is tough because you get all this training and you're expected to perform all these things every day. When something happens, when it happens, you're expected to do it as if you do it every day. I've been on ERT since 2003, and I've charged my weapon and tried to stop somebody 3 times in all those years. I've never deployed with my dog, either one, since 2010.
Okay.
So it's a tough job. I mean, that we all have to do. We're expected to perform like regular law enforcement officers who they in the stuff all day, every day. Whereas we're kind of, I like to refer to us as like an insurance policy. You only call on us when something happens. Well, how often do you turn on the news and see something happen at the White House or one of these NSSEs or his golf course? It's not much. So it's very, very hard to just stay focused on the task at hand and perform on that day as if you've done it every day. We get it done.
Well, I was going to say, that's a credit to the uniform division, because if you're only, charging your weapon 3 times, I think we do a good job of making sure that you only had to do it 3 times.
Right. And yeah, definitely that. But also it's an individual thing too, man. It's a mindset that you have, it starts in the morning. In ERT, we have this thing we call like combat mindset, and it's changed over the years. I know that. But at least for me, the one part of it that it always sticks out to me is there's these 3 fights we go to as ERT. 1, Fight one is with yourself. Every morning you wake up, or every night you wake up if you're mids, you have that fight with yourself to know that I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to do the best that I can do today. And, you that's where it starts. Then fight two is against whatever happened. Did you do all that you can? Did your training come into play? Did you make sure, your partners or your teammates were safe? Did you make the right calls? That's fight two. You have to win that fight. And then, of course, fight three, with us being law enforcement, everything ends in the courts. So we have to make sure we abide by all the laws that are out there, because we're not above the law. So those are the three fights that I do every day in my head, like making sure I win these fights, making sure I do the right things to win these fights. Because at the end of the day, the goal is just to go home.
That's pretty powerful.
People always ask me, "Man, you take a bullet for the president?" That's not really my job. My job is to make sure whatever's in front of me is taken care of. Not one incident that I've ever gotten in have I ever thought, "Where's the president?" That's not my job. That's somebody else's job. If I win, he's safe. And that's how I think about it. Like if somebody jumps that fence and we're out there running our tactics and these dogs are going crazy and we're like, "Where's POTUS?" Well, we're not doing our job, because that's not what we do. We stop the threat as far out from him as we can, and everybody else who's in his inner circle worries about where's POTUS.
So we haven't we had Special Agent Ron Schurer that was on the show. He was a part of the counter assault team. Some individuals in the service had talked about that there's almost a parallel training requirement for both groups. Is that true? Do you guys work together? Do you have like the same requirements as far as like training goes? I know that the missions are separate, but can you walk us through that?
The requirements are pretty much the same. The mission is the mission, which is POTUS and protection there. But we get to that goal differently. Like ERT is going to provide anything that's a middle perimeter tactical assault on somebody, so that CAT can do their job with the man. They're dealing with things on the inside while we're dealing with things on the outside. If everything goes bad and we're all together, we blend. We talk like them, we walk like them, we move like them. And that's the beauty of ERT and CAT, is that we can flow smooth with their tactics, they can flow smooth with our tactics. Although our missions are, the end goal of our mission is the same, but we get to there a little bit differently. At the end of the day, if we have to bleed into them or they bleed into us, it all flows. And the only reason you would know there's any different is if you asked us and I said I'm ERT and he's CAT. If you look at a patch and it says ERT and it says CAT, other than that, that's the beauty of the tactics that we go through. And that's their school being as hard as it is and enforcing things on that whole safety measure and making sure guys don't just slip through the cracks, for lack of a better term. It's the same on ERT. And that's why we do that. So when the day comes that we do have to maybe interact with each other, it's never going to be an issue. Comms are the same, gear's the same. The only thing we have different from them is the dogs. And there are a lot of former ERT K9 handlers on CAT. So it would be nothing for us to be doing something with CAT and a handler goes down. There's a guy on CAT who could pick up that dog. As long as the dog, like my dog is good. He'll go with anybody. He doesn't really care about me. But there's nothing to say that there's not a guy on CAT that doesn't have any ERT or K9 experience that could help out in that situation. So it blends perfectly at times. I wish it was more, but unfortunately, we have to man the house and they have to man the man. And we get it. It is what it is. Everybody's job is everybody's job, and that's what we do.
Yeah. So with all this talk about stress, what do you do on your downtime? Like, what do you enjoy doing when you're not in uniform?
Man, I am probably the biggest family man. I'm all about my kids, man. Like my kids, my wife, my family, my sisters, brothers I got. Especially my sisters, man. I ain't gonna try to make this about them, but they crack me up. Like I live for conversations with them. So I'm a huge family man. My mom's everything to me. My wife's everything to me. My kids. I love my dogs. I love to travel. Like I say, huge into sports. Go Buckeyes, #1 in the nation right now. Guys had to throw that in there. But yeah, that's me, man. I'm older now. I'm more mature, and I'm all about my kids.
Sergeant Technician Nall, I appreciate you coming in. As we wrap things up, as we always do, I always wanted to provide an opportunity for our guests to kind of talk about, any final thoughts or messages they'd like to give out to the listeners.
Yeah. As far as if you're not on the job, it's an excellent job. It's an excellent opportunity, no matter what your walk of life is. Secret Service has provided me and my family with things that I never thought I would ever have in my life. And more importantly, ERT, like I told you, has provided me with a mindset that I would never, ever try to change. Like I told you, a better man, better father, better husband because of the things I've learned. For my brothers and sisters within the Secret Service, law enforcement, military, the enemy is real. The enemy doesn't sleep. The enemy never tires. The enemy doesn't get sick. The enemy doesn't care about your religion. The enemy doesn't care about your race. And we have to combat this enemy day in and day out. And if you don't, then that's when the quote unquote Murphy moment will happen and we will lose. That enemy is complacency. Complacency will be the end of all of us. I know it's hard for everybody out there who does this type of work to stay focused 24/7, 365 and through your shift, but that's what we signed up for, and that's what we have to do. Never let complacency sink in to where you're going to become more of a hazard than a help. People count on us day in and day out, and the mission is serious. And if you believe that and you live that, then no failures are going to come our way. And I truly believe that.
And thank you for sharing it with us. Thank you for listening to the show. We hope you enjoyed it. We mentioned a lot of acronyms in this month's episode without explaining what they meant, so we provided the definitions in the show notes just in case you need them. If you have time, please hit the subscribe button on your podcast app and leave us a review. For more information about the Secret Service or how to join, please go to www.secretservice.gov. Until next time, listeners, stay vigilant.